Good afternoon, or morning, or evening, or middle of the night. It's the internet. Time does not exist. You are listening to Recruiting EQ episode number 71. I'm every single week. I'm like, what? 70, 71? And yeah, I'm still incredulous that we're at episode 71. And I'm going to keep being incredulous every week. So there. This is our success and wellness panel, which was kind of new this year. This is our fifth one. Wow, that seems like a lot. Fourth or fifth one, 4 or 5 months we've been doing this. I should have had that prepared. But yeah, and it's been a great reaction. So very happy to keep this rolling. The title for this week's episode is Balance and Perseverance, which is a title that, in all fairness, full transparency, I just threw out there because I didn't know what we were going to be talking about yet. And you know what? It actually works with what we're going to be talking about. So let's stick with balance and perseverance. Thanks all for being here today. Let's introduce our amazing panel of guests. You may notice something similar about their names as well, but which was a complete accident. Apparently, this is what happens when you're trying to run a recruiting desk and book a podcast at the same time. But yeah, if we could go around the room and introduce yourself and a little bit about what you do. Let's start with Kristen.
Good afternoon, good morning, like Rick said, whatever time it is. I'm happy to be here. I'm a recruiting manager. I've been in recruitment and staffing for 20 plus years, and I'm just excited to be here with everyone. So thanks for having me join, Rick.
Thanks, Kristen. Who would like to go next?
I guess I'll go.
Go ahead.
Sure.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
Going alphabetically now. My name is Christina Jones-Loge. I work for LBI Associates. I've been in agency recruiting specifically for the California transportation market, oddly specific, I know, but for about the past 4 years. So happy to be here again. Thanks for inviting me back.
Thanks for coming back.
Hello, everybody. I'm Christine Marino. I'm the Vice President of Marketing for Adecco Canada. I've been in the staffing world for over 25 years and done recruiting, done sales, and now in marketing. I'm also a wellness ambassador for the organization. So really important to me is wellness in the workplace and making sure that we have balance. So this topic is pretty special to me. So thanks for having me back, Rick.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. So for those who are listening to this as a podcast later, just to recap, the three guests for today are Christina, and Christine, because I want to make it hard to be your guess. Every great person I know is named a different version of your name, it seems. So there you go. And you guys are saying too that everybody does this to you anyway, right? Like Christine's, you're all interchangeable to the world.
Well, my mom calls me Christina when she's angry, and I go to Starbucks and I get Kristen. So
she adds a syllable like when she's angry.
Yeah. She does.
That's awesome.
I've had clients for years still email me, thanks, Christine.
Oh my God. And my wife captions these things and whatever else too. So we're gonna have to fact check. We're gonna have to like spell check after. So it's gonna be fun. Well, thank you so much for being here, you guys. This panel, which we do monthly, the second Wednesday of every month, came into being because in my line of work, I am a rec to rec, right? So I speak to other people who are in staffing, recruiting, and sales and marketing, but more or less in somewhat something to do with recruiting or staffing. And it's peer recruitment, right? So it's the only kind of thing where I'm recruiting other people who are just like me. So it almost turns into sort of a psychology session, or like people just talking about, their lives. Nobody, or very few people, grow up being like, I'm going to be a recruiter when I grow up, right? It finds you somehow. So there's always a lot to talk about there, but it does seem like, success in this kind of business comes with a lot more work. It's hard, and there's not a lot of boundaries, right? Like we all have to put in extra time and so on to be successful, especially at the beginning. But it just seems like it ramps and mounts, and it's kind of like, how do you deal? How do you not burn out? How can we make this sustainable, right? And still be successful and work hard and do our jobs, but not lose our minds and burn out. And I think all you guys had some great things to say about this. How are you feeling about this kind of topic broadly right now? Anyone who wants to jump in?
I mean, I think this is something, like I was telling you before, that I'm so glad that you wanted to make this a focus, because since I'm the least experienced person, speaking at least between us, I know the first couple of years I really, really struggled with this. I ended up doing very well, but I was honestly pretty miserable because I did have a problem setting boundaries. I didn't know how to do that. And so I think I've learned since then about what that looks like and how it's not going to completely, kill my ability to do my job well. So excited that this is a topic, because I think since we're not trained by degree to do this job, it is something that you kind of have to figure out along the way.
If I can add what Christine, like what you were saying, Christina, and I've been in this industry for a very long time. I think in the beginning, I fell into the trap of thinking that if I just stay online all day and do everything, I'll perform better. What I've discovered is that is not the case. The case is when I do take time to find the things that I enjoy and take time to fill my cup with other things, I actually perform much better. I actually am more creative. I actually can solution better. I actually am more pleasant to deal with, and I'm more productive. So what I've discovered in the time is that it's okay to take breaks. It's okay to walk away. It's okay to have time for yourself to actually come back more productive.
Yeah, that makes total sense. It's hard though, right? Like it's hard because I feel like there's a lot of self-imposed pressure to not do that. But it's important to think about that. Kristen, you and I had a good chat about this, a couple of chats building up to this actually, and you recounted to me sort of a story and a kind of a whole ethos that's helped you quite a bit. Would you mind maybe sharing some of that, and we can sort of dive in together?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So before I started in staffing, I was working for a nonprofit. It was a nonprofit focused on supporting women and children going through domestic violence, sexual assault. So we developed a 60-day volunteer training program. We managed a crisis line. I personally taught self-defense to women and children of all ages. And it was just a big passion for me. It was something that, hit home as well, just personally with some things that had happened in my life. And so for me, it was a way to, heal, recover, empower other people going through some of those other, those traumatic experiences. So ended up, doing that for a couple of years, then was laid off due to, I was in California at the time, a lot of budget cuts. So of course the education training program, that was the one to go first. So stepped into, that's when I was like, well, I'm ready for a new journey. I'm ready for something new. I didn't have any recruiting experience at that time. It's about 20 years ago. So I found a recruiting job. I was in a branch with Kelly Services at the time, and found my next career path. But it was still so important for me to continue my volunteer work with all different types of organizations. It's something that you think, oh my gosh, I'm so busy, I don't have time for this additional this additional time and energy and whatnot. But it truly, I feel like, has been so impactful for me. And in my current job and all of my positions throughout my staffing career, that just, feeling, you're able to give back, you're able to, have that purpose and motivate other people as well while you're doing it. So, we've done when I had local recruiters, we did some team building together as volunteers for different organizations. So, just, wanted to share that. I know everybody has, their favorite, causes, organizations but it definitely, I think, really goes hand in hand with, the wellness, doing something you enjoy, and then having it impact you and, helping you to be more successful. Because when you feel, good about what you're doing outside of work, and, we, make that time, it really goes a long way. So, that's my story. And, I just would welcome any other thoughts around it. And, Christine, I know you have some stuff to add as well.
Yeah, I'm happy to share, and I love that because I do believe giving back in the community fills your cup. It's part of one of the things that, always it gives back. You're giving back
Mm-hmm.
to yourself as well. And here at Adecco, we actually have a volunteer day, which we encourage colleagues to go and actually volunteer. We work with companies like Dress for Success, where we help women get back into the workforce. There's opportunities to actually go in the food bank. We try and coordinate opportunities. So we try and coordinate days where people can partake, but they're welcome to go and do whatever charity they're passionate about as well. The idea behind it is that we're encouraging people to go and get involved in the community. And there's so much benefit to that. So like you mentioned, there's team building where you can do it as a group and you start to, have fun with each other where, in this world where sometimes I think over COVID, we lost that human touch of getting together. And there's still, I think it's still missing a little bit. But when you do something like this and you're giving back, it's such a rewarding experience, not only for one person, but as a team, and you bond together. So it's doing multiple things at the same time. But then also, like I said, they could choose their own charity if they want to do something on their own that's special to them. And I've done Center for Abuse Awareness for many years when I worked at my previous company. Every year I'd volunteer. And to be honest, it actually helped shape my girls. I was a single mom, but helped them to see that, life isn't so easy for everybody. So there was so much reward that came out of that. And I think that is a great point that you added, Kristen, that something like that is beautiful to be able to get back into the community.
I'm glad that that's becoming more of the norm because I don't think we have that at our firm. We have other things, of course, like we started a Fade and Run club. So we actually have folks that can leave like 30 minutes early from work on Wednesdays. I'm not in the office today to do it. Oh no. But you can leave the office early to go run with your peers and like just get some exercise, like get outside, because that's also really important is just getting to do something for yourself too. But I do work with definitely some different civil engineering firms in California that is a part of their policy. And like one of the cool, unique benefits I like to tell people about is giving back is very important. It does good for other people, but it also makes you feel good about yourself and usually your life circumstances because there are a lot less fortunate people around you than you realize sometimes. Yeah. So it's all good, but I'm glad that is becoming more standard because it's big benefit for you and the community.
And you touch on Christina, the wellness program. So there is stuff that we do in the organization as well in regards to like more active wellness. And being in endurance sports, that's something I hold really close to me. And I try and incorporate that, especially with my team. We do meditation sessions once in a while to kind of step away from the desk. It doesn't have to be long. It's 10, 15 minutes, but it gets them to reset, and everyone actually really appreciates it. We've done it within the organization where I've led a meditation sessions for the whole organization. And that's gone over very well. But we also encourage wellness at work where we're going to be launching something soon. So I can't really talk too much about it, but hopefully I'll come back and Rick and I can share. But the idea is to encourage and motivate people to take those breaks during the day, that it's okay to have a meeting where you can go for a walk if you're not, contributing. So if you're listening, that you take that meeting on a walk and, get active and, it's not the same as sitting down. We weren't meant to sit down 24 hours a day. The fact that when you get up and move around, you actually become more productive and creative. So we do a lot of those things, and there's more things that we're going to be launching as of September, and happy to come back and share. But I think it's important for organizations to take into consideration that wellness starts with your people and making sure that they have the time to do it. And it needs to start from the top down, because they can't feel guilty about it. They can't feel guilty about having time in their calendar to take a break or walk away for a little bit. And it's okay. I think that's really important to keep in mind.
It really is. Kristen, can we back up for a second? To you said you were also teaching women and children self-defense.
That's amazing.
Correct. Yes. It was.
Awesome.
Oh, go ahead.
I think we're on a bit of a delay.
It was. Okay. Yeah, I didn't know if it was on my end, but yeah. So part of our education and training program was to have self-defense courses offered in the community. So it would be, sometimes at a community center where, like a YMCA or YWCA or, something like that, where people could sign up and come in, and like I said, all ages. And then I also went into the schools a lot and did education around teen dating violence, and as well as so a lot of middle schools, high schools. So yeah, it was amazing. It definitely impacted my life, and unfortunately didn't pay the bills that well once I got laid off, and that's when I decided to go into staffing. But always had this, this vision of just empowering my team, and having them, just different activities that we can do, like Christine mentioned, whether it's going out and on walks, and giving them that permission to take breaks, right? It's as well as just being able to do things together, and find ways that we can support each other. And ultimately, I think when we feel good about ourselves, we're going to do that much better in our jobs.
100%.
Yeah, that's awesome. And like part of
hopefully
part
you
of
guys
the
okay.
We hear you fine. We hear you fine, but it's a bit of a delay. So apologies if we
Okay.
somewhat talk over each other slightly. But that's okay. That's just what are you going to do? The internet is a crazy place.
Yeah.
But a part of the exercise with this whole success and wellness panel, and where I think it's going, and I'm starting to sort of increasingly feel like the importance of this discussion is to kind of normalize these ways of thinking, because I don't, as just from firsthand experience of speaking to people in recruitment for a living for 6 years now, so like hundreds and hundreds of people, neither on the client side nor the candidate side do I feel like there's like people think it's okay to talk like this, whether they think it or not. So there's the ones who don't agree that they're like, oh, you're just soft or whatever, you gotta toughen up, and using the kind of like tough language, right? You need to have grit, you need to have whatever, right? Like you need to figure out your time management skills and just keep at it. And it's, what I mean, that you have to have an edge, you have to like be, that's what this industry is about. So there's those types of people who think that it's just kind of like the wellness stuff is just hippy dippy stuff that's not going to help you make money or whatever. So that's one attitude that I feel. Then the other is that I feel like there are people who do agree with everything we're saying, but they don't know if it's okay to talk about it. Right? They don't know if it's okay, or if they're going to catch if I'm going to be like, oh, you're no good for this job because you're thinking about wellness. Forget it. No one's going to want to hire you. You know what I mean? They almost feel like they don't have permission to talk about this kind of stuff because it's not okay in a sales environment to think this way. So I feel like part of this is also just to normalize that there's a lot of people who do actually see a benefit and are better at their jobs for considering some of this stuff. And it's not all that they're trying to like cheat the boss out of 10 minutes more of getting paid because they're trying to take a walk and chill out with their friends or whatever, and that there's no benefit to it. You know what I mean? Do you guys also see that to an extent, like either like there's just people who are dismissive of this kind of talk, or ones who are even afraid of expressing this kind of stuff?
I think I do a lot because we hire a lot of fresh graduates right out of college. And so there's kind of this mindset of if you're not doing really well, are you going to get weeded out potentially? There's this like chip on your shoulder. You have to prove yourself very early on to make a big splash and be seen as like, oh, they're going to be really good and they're going to last in this business. Um, and I think the hard part is that there is this new generation of folks that are coming up that do want to prioritize wellness and mental health,
Yeah.
but is sales also conducive for that? Not always. I think that there are different firms that are better about being more open and allowing you to talk about this and maybe having flexible hours or whatever it is to just accommodate your schedule better. But it is something that I think generally, like old school mindset, if you will, is I just got to work till I get the work done, or, I just have to work my, butt off so then I can have enough money to retire at a decent age or something like that. And that's just not the priority for folks now entering into this business. And so finding a firm that realizes that and can accommodate that, but still be successful, like that's where I think it's hard right now.
And the only thing I'm going to add to that, I agree, is I think if we don't, as organizations, people will eventually have to take the time off because of the fact that they're burnt out or they're not well. And that is the reality of what happens. And we see that a lot in roles where individuals that are, working around the clock. I've seen it in many roles within the organization, in organizations I've been at. I'm lucky. I think I'm at an organization right now that fosters it, that it's coming from the top down. And I think that's because of experience where they did get burned out and they realize that it is important to have a work-life balance. And I think until, like I said, it really has to be led from top. The leaders have to kind of embrace that and share that to make it feel okay. You're always going to have people that think differently, and that's okay. But there are going to be people who champion it. And I think conversations like this and opportunities to talk about it and the benefits and what people will get out of it is what needs to continue to happen to make the change. The only way change happens is if you talk about it and you continue to, explain what comes and what the benefits of it. But there always has to be a champion, right? There has to be a champion that's going to push it and kind of speak and not be afraid to say what they feel and the benefits that they're going to, the results that are going to come. And they will speak for themselves after. But again, like I said, top down and champions, you need to make sure. And there'll always be the naysayers. There'll always be the people who don't agree and have their own opinions. But you got to have the ones that have a powerful voice that keep on talking about it.
I will want to play devil's advocate for a second with that, where it does need to come from top down. I do agree, because unfortunately institutional change won't happen unless we have the people at the top agreeing with the changes and making that policy or the norm.
Uh-huh.
But I also think that I'm someone who came into this industry not a fresh graduate. And so I was used to, I guess, speaking my mind a little bit more. So I think it also comes from bottom to top, where you do need to be very vocal and honest about, hey, I am struggling with this. I do need to take this extra time off. Like when I tell my supervisor after I've been traveling for 7 days straight and working 7 days straight, hey, when I get back that first day, I need to take that time off. Like, and I don't necessarily have to, maybe log that as PTO, because again, I've built up so many hours. And so to have that kind of understanding is really important to me, but it wasn't something that was policy per se, but it was like this understanding that I had to come to her with, saying, this is what I need. What can you work with me on this?
100%. 100% agree with you on that.
And I think that's just tough when we do hire a lot of folks that aren't used to like pushing back on supervisors because maybe they've never had one before. And so they don't know how to appropriately and respectfully vocalize their needs when they are feeling stressed out, burnt out, whatever. We talk about all the time, like our managers are always saying to their fresh starters, hey, if you're struggling, never suffer in silence. Come to us if you are struggling. And so they're trying to help normalize that and make space for that. But I do think sometimes when you're just starting in your career, it's really hard to advocate for yourself. So what you said about like having champions or people who are kind of carving that time or that space out for you to have that ability to talk about it is super important too.
Yeah, and I was just going to add, we also do surveys within the organization, like a pulse check to understand where it's anonymous. So where those people who are coming in who don't feel maybe that they're comfortable or going and saying something directly, they have a place and an outlet where they can actually share, oh, I'm not okay, or I need more of this. And we review this from the leadership team, and then we review it managers with the peers to kind of talk about what's important within a team that needs to change, and everyone has to take actions on it. But I think that it's important for companies, you bring up a really good point, is that there's a pulse check. So we understand how people are feeling. Not necessarily are people comfortable to share everything because they're scared, right? Maybe they're afraid of, if I say something that I'm going to be, considered I can't do my job or whatever the case. They have that fear. But it's important that they have an outlet that they can speak and share how they're feeling, and people understand and listen and say, okay, maybe we need to change something here. We're hearing this consistently across the organization, right? So that's something we do. So I am proud of the things that we have moved and changed over the last little while, but everyone has a voice, and I think it's important.
I think it is important. Kristen, I want to go back to, again, what you were saying about the volunteering, and volunteering specifically with something that is kind of cause-based. What kind, like helping others, basically, right? And not just doing something that's an extracurricular activity, which is also sort of important for sure, and fitness and wellness and are important. But specifically, I don't think we've, on this show anyway, touched on doing something that is strictly related to helping others as volunteering. What kind of resonant benefits have you seen from doing that kind of thing in your success, in your life in general?
Yeah, no, I think that it's very rewarding, and I think that when you're helping other people, I think Christina or Christine might have mentioned it, right? You're realizing that you're impacting their lives in a way that maybe you don't experience on a daily basis, or people that are less fortunate. I think that there's a lot of just good feelings, and just that you're doing something positive for somebody else that is going to really impact their life. Whether a couple of the groups that I've recently volunteered with, I do a lot with veterans groups, so Veterans Against Suicide, veterans getting back into the civilian workforce, even the recent flood relief in Texas.
Right.
It's just, you can get out there and make a difference. And that, and I think that it ties back into, the work that you do every day as well, because, for me, that's the most rewarding part of staffing and recruiting has always been just when you're making a difference in someone's life.
Yep.
You're getting them that job so that they're not going to lose their house, or they're just over the moon because you have made a big life change for them. And so I feel like it kind of goes hand in hand, right? They're not separate. So I think that when you're volunteering and you're getting out in the community, and you're doing that on a different level in your personal time, it just, there's something, I don't know about it, that just, it for me, and kind of this inspiration and passion that I feel kind of bubbling up within myself, that then allows me to project that into my job as a recruiting manager with my team, with my candidates, clients, coworkers. So I think that there's a lot that it's very expansive how it can impact you as a person when you're able to give back like that and make a difference.
I think that's perfect. What I was thinking is that the reason why volunteering, I think, is very rewarding to this kind of group is because at the end of the day, like, they like to think that salespeople are all about just, I want to earn money. I want to earn money. And I'm not saying that that's not true to some extent for some people, but I think the people that want to be in this industry for the long term, the long haul, like, you can't just say, I want to earn money, because sometimes when you earn enough money, then you leave, you're good. You did what you wanted to do. But the people that stay in the industry that I've found for a long, long time are the ones that, yes, the money could be nice or is nice, but it comes from this innate need and drive to help others. Because we don't have this degree in recruitment, where we've seen a lot of successful recruiters at our firm are folks that come from teaching or more service-oriented industries, because they realize, I can earn money, yes, but I can still continue to help others. So doing things in your personal life, like volunteering or doing something to still continue to help others, is very, very rewarding. And I think that's where there's that very innate connection there with volunteering and staffing or sales.
Yeah, I feel like it's interesting, just to go back to, again, the balance.
And
go ahead.
Oh no, all I was going to say, just to kind of piggyback off what Christina was saying, that so when I was working for the nonprofit, and that chapter ended in my life, I mean, most of my experience, I didn't have recruiting, staffing experience. I was fairly new graduate. I had been working at the nonprofit, but it was like, okay, what can I do? And like you said, there's no recruiting degree, right? But the company that I applied for, they took a chance on me because they saw, like, okay, she has these transferable skills that she can utilize, that is good when you're looking at candidate and client engagement. And so for me, recruiting was a whole brand new world, and just opened my eyes completely. But I think, to your point, that just, a lot of times the people that are in our industry, we are very service oriented. We want to give back. We want to make that difference. And while the money is, yes, I mean, we're all working to make money, but at the end of the day, if we can love what we're doing while we're making money, then, it's a win-win. So yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I feel like for me personally, I am guilty of the giving too much of a crap. You know what I mean? Like, we also, in order for it to be sustainable and to not burn out, we also have to realize that, sometimes it doesn't work out, right? And like getting too invested, trying to quote unquote help too much, or like being too hung up on, no, this person should have got that job or whatever else, and then like spinning off about that stuff all night long or whatever, and spiraling over it, is something that I had a lot of, and still have a lot of. I have to put a lot of effort into not being like that, right? Because it's easy to just get so invested in what we're doing, both on the candidate and the client side. And sometimes a candidate will just break your heart. They're amazing, you think you've changed their life, and then they'd have to quit on the second day, or they disappear, or God knows what. So all of those emotions, I volunteer in doing outreach with people who are struggling with addiction and so on. So I'm part of an organization here in downtown Toronto, and I am involved 3 days a week, directly with people and in the administration of the organization, all this kind of stuff. So it's like, it's a lot of hours to put in, because I already work a lot of hours or whatever else. but what I feel like I get out of it is that sense of, you mentioned a lot of great words, Kristen, impact, being one, it's gratifying work. You know what I mean? All that kind of like gratification and impact and sense of meaning and purpose. Um, I get that directly helping people. So I almost feel like I have a little bit less, the stakes are a little bit lower. I'm able to look at things a little bit more impartially and not get so emotional myself
Right.
in the roller coaster of what it is that we're doing, which actually makes me better at my job. Right. It's because a lot of it is just the pendulum swing of the emotional roller coaster that we're on
Mhm.
is hard to handle as a person who gives a crap and who's, has emotions and is invested in whatever. So that was an unexpected benefit for me. And I listen to people talk about what they feel is missing when they're unhappy in their recruiting jobs nowadays. And it's all of those things, more than money, more than anything else. Okay, sure. Sometimes it's a location, it's a long commute. That's obvious, but often it's impact, meaning. These are words that come up often. Gratification from their job. They don't feel it's gratifying. They feel like it's draining them and it's not giving them those things, a sense of meaning, purpose, impact, and so on. But funnily enough, you could work the exact same job. This working, helping others, I feel like, again, it fills your cup with that whole thing. It changes you, and you come at it in a place that you already have a sense of meaning and all this and impact and whatever else. Do you guys feel sort of the same? Do you see that in recruiters, that those are some things that maybe they're missing, but they're looking for maybe in the wrong place, or I don't really know.
I think a lot of recruiters actually say that they're looking for a purpose driven, right? Where they actually, and to be honest, when I first started and I was a recruiter, that's what kept me in this industry, where I actually felt like I made a difference in someone's lives.
Right.
And that was the feeling that I wanted. It didn't always go well, but there was always a story that was going to come that you knew that you did something for somebody. And you're dealing with people in a recruitment staffing company. You've got various reasons why they're coming to a staffing world. It could be a bridge between employment, it could be a new mom coming back to work. So many different things. New immigrants that are coming to the country and have no idea what they need to do. And you're helping them and guiding them. And you get that feeling of purpose, right? You've done something to help people. And like what you said, Rick, is when there is a lot of emotion that comes with it where, oh my God, they didn't get it. And you're heartbroken just as much, maybe even more than them.
Maybe more, yeah.
You work so hard and you think that you did it for them and you were helping them and then it didn't happen. But yes, when you do, you're able to go and do this volunteer work, it does feel like you fill that piece of the cup and re-energizes yourself and gives you that purpose that maybe you miss on some things and it continues to go forward. But I do agree that recruiters, when they're coming, and I hear from all of them, and even when they go and do the volunteer days, they feel like, okay, you know what, that filled my cup and gave me some purpose. And they're always looking for that. They need to have that. And I think, like you said, most of us come from like the service industry. That was my background, where I worked when I was younger. And I always felt the need to help people. I actually thrive on that, making sure that I make a difference for people, I impact their lives, whatever that is. I'd like to leave in a better place than where I came, right? So I think I see it with recruiters often, that is what they're looking for.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I also feel like people use the word impact in terms of wanting growth. Like they want to grow in their career and they think that that's going to give them more of a feeling of impact. Or sometimes they want to leave an agency to go in-house because they think being in-house will be more impact because they're at one company for a long time. But I'm starting to feel like the growth and impact connection a lot of times is just like, I want to feel this way about my career, and I don't right now.
Mm-hmm.
And the solution to me is to get another job or to get a different title or whatever else. And I haven't necessarily, like, I'm not literally getting someone a job and then talking to them after 3 months and being like, so do you have impact now? You know what I mean? Maybe I should do that. But do you feel like you have impact? But I don't. I'm starting to think that maybe the two aren't really directly related, right? Like that. So personally, I'm a big advocate, and Kristen, when you mentioned this to me as a potential topic, I was like, yeah, for sure, because I don't talk about it a lot either, but I do feel that it's changed how I show up to work. It's changed what I feel I get out of it, and it's also changed how much I can do in a day without feeling emotionally exhausted. Like I can do a lot more in a day. I show up, and what I can achieve in a day now is like 3, 4, 5 days of what I could do a few years ago. You know what I mean? So yeah, and feel okay, and not feel like tearing my hair out. You know what I mean? And take an hour or so a day to do a podcast in the middle of the day, and still do my other job, for example.
But you know what, Rick? What you're saying is you want, like, people have to find the thing that gives them purpose. So
Yes.
it could be volunteer. It could be, for me, running.
Yeah, 100%.
It could be yoga for somebody. But it's important that people don't lose themselves in their career, in their job, that they forget to have that piece of them that will give them the purpose and will allow them to show up at work. And that ties back to all of it, right? Like, coming back to workers and employers accepting that people be able to do some things like this will give them the purpose, will give them the ability to stay in an organization, because now they feel like they're bringing their best selves and they're filling their cup with all the things that they need to show up 100%, right? So everyone, I think it's really important that they find what that is for them and then make time for that in their calendar. Schedule it in for yourself so that you have that time, so that you feel like you are doing what you need to do for yourself. Because if you don't take care of yourself, and there's a reason why on airlines they tell you got to put the mask on first. You got to take care of yourself first before you can do anything for anybody else. If you don't do that, it's not going to happen.
And I think when you can't show up fully to work, it does start to seep into how you interact and how you're able to do your job. Because I think some of the folks that I've worked with appreciate kind of a warmthness that you can bring. Because I think, unfortunately, at least in my industry that I work in, recruiters don't always have the best reputation. It seems very transactional. We're not getting back to people in timely manners, like whatever, XYZ, negative things you could say about any industry. We all have it. And those are some of the things that get pointed out to us. And I think when you can bring that full self and that warmth, that personality, and you aren't coming into work just treating it as like, I just have to get through today, and that's all you can think about, you do interact better with people and they feel it, and then they want to also continue working with you. Because I think that's some of the biggest compliments I get is, wow, you're the first recruiter I've worked with that actually seems to care. Like, wow, you're the first recruiter that actually got back to me when they said they would. Or thank you so much for doing this. I could tell you put a lot of effort into it, and that you really wanted to help me. Like, those are the kind of comments that I think all recruiters really can pride themselves on. And they can't do that, and they can't interact and bring that kind of energy into folks that they work with unless they are setting boundaries, making time to do the things that fill up their cups, as we're saying, because it will start to show in your day-to-day if you aren't taking care of yourself first.
Absolutely. This is the part of the show every episode where Rick starts to talk about this now. So part of why the podcast began in the first place was because everybody's freaking out about AI just taking over for humans in recruitment, right? And that was at the end of 2023. Since then, AI agents exist where you actually have an avatar that looks like a person and speaks like a person convincingly, but is an AI bot that's doing phone screens for people, mostly on the in-house front. But Lord knows I get into conversations with people about AI tools all the time in my line of work. Business owners, like smaller agency owners, you know what I mean? So the general consensus seems to be that there are a lot of aspects of the recruiting job that can be automated, which makes sense, but there are a lot that can't. And that means that we have to face a question as a whole industry and workforce of human relationships are important. Like it's
Yeah.
just has to become a proven fact now as we discuss this, and get more specific about, like, you know, what that means and what like treating people like humans is important to us as a workforce, as a human race. You know what I mean? Um, but these big questions, I think, allow us to maybe get a lot of this conversation that we're having today more normalized. Because if it is important and it does matter and certain elements can be removed, I feel like it's an opportunity to focus more on the human aspect of what we do every day, ourselves, as well as how we interact and build trust and build relationships with other people. How are you guys feeling about this? Do you feel like there's already starting to be a leaning toward more of the human element, the relationship element of what we do in the face of all this AI stuff?
I can
Or
I
not
can
yet?
jump in from like my perspective, and kind of what we're seeing is that we keep on going back to more the old school ways of, it's important to connect with people. The networking still needs to happen. You know, these automations are great as added tools to help, enhancements, but they're not going to take away from the people. The people factor of our business is still very important. People still buy from people. People still want to deal with people. And that is more, I think, more important now than ever, is that candidates are actually wanting to actually speak to humans and hear from humans, and even clients. When we talk to clients, they want to actually speak to a person. We do better when we network with them or we reach out to them, versus, you know, you can't just rely on automated messages. That's not going to work. It needs to be the human touch still needs to come back. And I think we depended on it for a little bit too much. We kind of thought, oh, this is going to be an easier way to do things. We can't treat it as the only way. We need to use that as an enhancement, and it cannot be a replacement. The people part of our business is still the most important part. That's what we deal with, humans. So we can't lose that factor.
I was going to make sure that Kristen wasn't going to speak, but what I wanted to add to that is a big proponent I am at work for at least one thing I know is traveling to meet people in person. I'm technically a remote employee, but I know that I've had some of the coolest interactions that actually make it fun for me in my job, but also make the biggest impact for my clients and candidates I'm working with is when I take the time to go see them. Because the last conference I went to last month, and I'll be traveling again next month, I met someone who, you know, I had a cold call on the phone years ago. We set up an interview, whatever, it didn't go anywhere. It's fine. But then I reached out to them again and said, hey, you know, I'm going to be at this conference. Are you going to be there? Ended up meeting up with them in person. It'd been literally like maybe 3 years since I'd last spoken to them on the phone and never met them before. And we had such a cool time getting to know each other, not just like talking about work, but just being human to human for a second, which was very refreshing, I think, for both of us. And I wasn't trying to gain necessarily anything directly from that conversation. I was just trying to actually network, which I think is a very obscure sometimes word, you know, like, because there's people have different intentions when they use that word or when they say, oh, I'm going to go network. But I was truly going there just to like have my face be in the industry, have people recognize me, have people get to know me as a person, because yes, people buy from people, but they just don't buy from people. They buy from people they like.
Yeah, it's true.
People that they know and they trust.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think it's so important for you to go into the wild, like to say, and actually make that human-to-human connection, because I wasn't planning on necessarily, again, gaining too much from that relationship that I built, but from it, they ended up giving me a referral. And I just, you know, got that person after this past month a job off that referral, you know? So like, you never know. And maybe it does sound more hippy dippy, But I am a believer in karma, and I try to put out a lot of good karma into the universe. And I do believe that when I'm trying to do what's right by my candidates, by my clients, always, and always just trying to maintain that human relationship, that's where a lot of cool things happen that unfortunately you can't make happen behind a phone screen or, a LinkedIn message or something like that.
Yep.
100%. Kristen, what are you seeing out there on this front? Are people getting more into the human part of it?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with 100% with Christine and oh, my mute? No, okay. Christine and Christina, that I think that AI, I mean, it, in some instances, I think, oh my gosh, this is amazing, right? It's an enhancement, like Christine said, but it's not a replacement. And I think that connection, like Christina mentioned, and connecting, I think that's such a big part of being in recruiting and staffing, is when you're talking with each person, whether it's a candidate, a client, someone internal within your company, you're making that individual connection, you're building that rapport with them, finding something in common that you can talk about, that you can connect with them on, so that it's just extending and expanding that relationship, so it's not just a work transaction. And I think like Christina said, I mean, I haven't traveled much for work in my recent years, but it was the coolest thing to be able to go and meet someone face to face that you've been talking to for, however long. And, now you get to actually meet them, and, they know that they're a priority. You're there for them. And to, again, there's that word, impact their life, whether it's, getting the staff they need, or, helping them come up with a good workforce solution that's going to work for their operation. So I think it's just that human element, I think is so important. And I agree that, while AI is awesome in a lot of ways, I don't see in our business how it's going to just completely replace the human element.
Yeah, for sure. I agree completely. I am always shocked when people do speak like that. There was some sort of like, I don't know, American Recruiter Conference, International Recruiter. I was saying, I think it was international, that was like on LinkedIn or whatever else a couple months ago, and 100% of the speakers were talking about AI. 100% of them. There wasn't one person who hadn't. So I was like, okay, so there's nothing at all to talk about in recruitment globally except for AI right now. Like, holy crap, that is bonkers. But you guys mentioned networking. I came at this thing as a networker, right? Like, networking is my core. I learned recruitment afterwards, but even from a sales perspective, when I had my own record label, it was all networking. I kind of think that's sort of the future of what we're doing. Because I think an AI can send a whole bunch of connection requests or messages pitching a job to people and seeing if they're interested, and those people can come back and speak to a human, right? So, but that's not really networking. That's cold outreach, which can be automated. But is that really our job, though? Like, I feel like our job is to bring more to the table than simply being like, I have this job, do you want it? No. I have this job, do you want it? No. Like, I think that there's more about, like, let me get to know you and understand who you are. What are your career goals? Who are you really? What do you like and not like? What are, and then be like, who you remind me of? I feel like you would get along with this person, and this is a little bit, and then tell the client about that, and sort of really matchmake, and not just be like, what do you want? Do I have it? Yes, no, next. Like, because that's not really, there's no point in us existing. I almost feel like if AI replaces that, then almost like good. You know what I mean? Because that's boring and kind of not what we do. But I feel like a lot of people think that is what we do, though. Am I nuts?
You know what? There's a leader in our organization named Joyce Russell in the US. She wrote a book called The Cherry on Top. If you get a chance to read it, you should. It's available on Amazon. It's not long, but it's very powerful and very meaningful in what she wrote. In it, one of her big quotes that she says, and everybody says it, is your network is your net worth.
Right.
And I really believe that is the truth. And what Christina said is, you go out there and you're not necessarily going to make, the idea doesn't have to always be you're going to do a sales call or a sales pitch. networking is about creating this network that you grow and you build trust with people. They get to know who you are. And when there's an opportunity that something comes up, they think of you or you think of them. And that is the beauty of what we do in this organization. I mean, I've been in here for over 25 years. I always say, don't burn your bridges. You never know when that person's going to cross your path again. And it's been true. So over and over again, I've seen people and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's been 10 years. I haven't seen you. And honestly, you've built that connection. They trust you and they'll want to work with you. They'll refer you. They'll give you people. And I really believe that your network is your net worth. And what you do every single day when you go out and how you represent yourself and what you talk about and how you share things, that is what will build your book of business. Right. I mean, you don't necessarily, I think that those AI tools will complement and help you just, remind people of who you are. But you and everybody who's in this world can't lose touch with going out and speaking to people and hearing and having conversations and learning about them. And it doesn't always have to be a sales call. It doesn't have to always be a recruiting call. But those people will remember how you made them feel and how you interacted with them. And they will remember you when you either want something or you reach out to them or you have an opportunity that you want to present them with. So I think it's really, really important that we continue to network. Networking is the most powerful thing. I told my daughter, create a LinkedIn account. She's young. She's just starting. Invite people, get to know them. When you go out places, talk to them, invite them. But your network is really important. That's your brand, your personal brand that, like I think, Christina, you said, people buy from people they like and who they remember and the experiences they have with them. That's what's going to make the difference. Organizations like us, they bring people on board, but people buy from the people that we have on board, the brands they built themselves. And that's what's really important. So I think if we should not lose sight of the importance of networking.
Right. And it's so good to know that that's where that quote comes from, is the cherry on top book, because I've definitely used that as an email header. That your net worth is your network. So I'll have to read that book. I also like, because I think you kind of were saying it, it's that Maya Angelou quote.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
About, because when I was teaching, that was my mantra, because that's where my education and background is from, is they're not going to remember what you said, but how you made them feel.
Right, right.
And I think that is definitely something that I've tried to carry over into this job as well. It's like, when I meet people in person, they're not going to remember what job I maybe pitched them or everything we talked about at that conference, but they're going to be like, that's that girl.
Yep.
That recruiter girl that I met at that conference. Because also, not to like hate on anybody in particular, but I'm like the only recruiter that shows up to these events. And these are like big, really cool, fun events. And I'm like, how are recruiters not showing up to these things? Like, I'm not like trying to gatekeep anything, but I was like, y'all could at least show up. And, there's plenty of people for us to both talk to. So I think it's crazy people aren't taking more advantage of that. And back to what you were asking about, Rick, about like, is this our job just to post about jobs all day long on like our LinkedIn? No, like I rarely do that, because like, especially when you think about people who aren't actively looking, which is a majority of people, because if they're good, they have a good job. Like that's just plain and simple. And generally they're treated well. Maybe, yes, they want to change their impact, whatever it is. You can talk to them about that, but they're not going to be super interested if all you post about 100% of the time is just job postings. So I did a LinkedIn poll, because I love the little LinkedIn polls. I think they're so fun. Where actually I said, what do you want to hear from me as a recruitment consultant? What actually would make you stop and click or read or whatever? Because I doubt that it's just job advertisements. Even if it's not for you and for someone like it's just not 100% of the time what you want to see or read. So I did a poll. I think my options were market trends, job advertisements, and then like two other like industry events and one other thing. And the thing that majority of the votes, and I sent this around to a lot, like as many people as I had first, connections with, a strong majority said industry trends. Like they want to hear about what they're already doing. Like maybe not necessarily who's hiring and firing, because I can't be, spreading lots of positive and negative news about people, because even though I know some of that stuff, because I talk to a lot of people, but they just want to know that if you're truly about their industry, what do you know? What can you share? What value can you add
Sure.
to me in my current job? Not a future job, just like right now. And so meeting people where they're at currently, I think is very, very important, because otherwise you're just noise. They don't, oh, she's just posting about this again, scroll past. But if you're diversifying and actually giving people at different points in their life, or active versus passive candidates, something to glom onto, you're going to be more memorable, and they're definitely going to want to network with you for sure.
100%. Well, there you have it. We've solved it. People are important. Volunteer when you can, and you will be super successful. That's the solution to everything. In just an hour, we fixed it all. So if you're not listening to this podcast, you really missed out. That's our time. Thank you so much, you guys, for being here. I really appreciate all three of you guys being here. I think this was a really great conversation. I hope it's helpful to people out there.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Rick.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Thanks, guys, and hope to see all of you listener type people next Wednesday.